Right, one of the members of our eco team is Trevor, and he is going to come and talk to us now about his eco journey. And whilst Trevor is talking, there is an activity linked to one of the videos on the tables over there, the cutting and sticking exercise, if any of the children want to go over and do that with Evie. So please feel free to go over and do that, and I'll hand over to Trevor.
Thank you. We okay, Richard? Yeah, I can hear it from here. Okay. Well, I'd like to thank Sue for arranging the Wren Collective as my warm-up act. Doesn't happen all that often. This is not a sermon. It's a testimony. Shut up. I'm being heckled by the eco team. You haven't even started yet. So this is a series of thoughts about my own journey, if you like. The scientists tell us that climate change is a significant problem. They tell us it's a catastrophe waiting to happen, even a catastrophe that's happening. I believe them. I think it's sensible to believe experts when they tell you something. When my car breaks, I get a mechanic because they're an expert. When we get a flood at home, I call a plumber. I know Mike doesn't, but I call a plumber because they're an expert. It seems to me dumb not to listen to the experts. But there is a problem. The majority of us are not experts. And when the experts tell us the same thing again and again and again, there is this tendency to switch off. We can feel patronized. We can feel irritated. We can think, what, this again? Because we are not experts, and perhaps it's not our top priority. So I stand here before you today as the anti-expert. I don't know anything about science. I have the dubious distinction of having failed every science exam I ever took. I even failed human biology, which apparently is really, really difficult to fail. Mind you, it would have helped if I turned up to more of the lessons. So, I'm not an expert. But why do I care? Well, for a long time, I didn't care. 10, 12 years ago, I didn't really care. I thought, it's a big issue, it's beyond me, and I'm really not going to engage with it, I'm really not going to think about it. What can I do about it? The change came because I had children. The change came because my children began to grow up. And I wanted them to continue in the church. I wanted them to become Christians. I wanted them to grow as Christians. And I wanted them as adults to stay within the church. And they started asking me questions about my attitudes to things. I remember when Sarah, my oldest daughter, said to me, "Dad, I'm only going to eat fair trade chocolate." And I was really irritated because fair trade chocolate is expensive. And it only a fad. It's just a phase she was going through. in her early teens. Well, I was wrong. Today, at 25, my daughter, who was quite capable as a child of sitting for an hour refusing to eat her vegetables, even if it meant not getting any pudding, is now a committed vegetarian. It wasn't a fad. And it wasn't a fad for my other children. So, here I am, the patriarch, the head of my Christian family. And Sue and I always tried to raise our kids to ask whatever questions they wanted to ask, and that we would try to answer them as honestly as we possibly could. So all of them, all four of them, started asking me questions. They asked me, what's the Bible say about our responsibilities to God's creation? They asked me, so Dad, what difference does it make to you and your Christian life? What impact does that have on your views on the climate change and all the things that the video showed us? And they said to me, and they asked me, Dad, what's our church's position on this? What's our church doing about this? I like to be honest with my kids. I always wanted to be honest with my kids. And I was very uncomfortable with the answers that I was going to have to give them. Not the ones about what the Bible says, the other two. So, I knew that saying, shut up, I'm watching the football, wasn't really going to cut it. So, I started to think about it. I revisited what the Bible said about it. I started to pray about it, and I started to read about it. I am not a scientist. I don't understand half of it. But I got the gist. I got the gist. My kids have not forgotten these issues. They are all, in their own ways, very committed. My youngest son worked for a wildlife trust. My oldest son has manoeuvred himself in the civil service into DEFRA, the Department for the Environment, Fisheries and Rural Affairs. So he's now of a sufficient seniority where he can begin to affect environmental policy. There's two things I want to say to you about what they tell me. The first one is Christians of their generation, in their 20s and 30s, care about this issue. It's a significant issue to them. We were asked to vote as to whether it should be a priority for Christians. I had the voting slip, so we voted yes, it was important. Well, I don't know. I hope the rest of my group didn't disagree with me. Yeah. They tell me that for Christians of their generation, this is a vital and important issue. This is the demographic that we desperately need in our church. This is the missing generation, begging your pardon, hello. This is the missing generation for our church. When younger Christians want to join a church, they're going to care what our view is on this issue. Don't think they don't care. Don't think they won't notice. And don't think that we can fudge it. Because they do. Secondly, they tell me their non-Christian friends really care about this issue. I've been in the church since I was 16. In that time, all I hear well, no, not all I hear lots of things. Sorry, I'll withdraw that. One of the things I hear is evangelism, building bridges. How do we build bridges? How do we reach out to the unsaved? What common ground can we find? This is an issue they care about. If we don't care about it, what an opportunity we are missing to have a proper, sensible dialogue on something that is perfectly biblical. And if I had time, I'd quote you all the scriptures. I haven't. Have I? No. It's biblical, it's topical, and the people we want to reach care about it. So even in our own best interests, and you understand I'm coming from this from an entirely non-scientific point of view, even in our own best interests, we need to be engaging with this. When I first joined this church, somebody said to me, I can't remember who it was, it's really nice to have young blood in the church. And I thought, if I'm young blood, we have got an awful lot of work to do. Yeah, awful lot of work to do. Most of us, my generation, people older than me, we are not the future of the church. We know that we're not the future of the church. But we are the church of today. We are the decision makers in this church today. We do formulate the policy of this church today. And I want to be on the side. Well, I want to be able to look my children and my grandchildren in the eye. I want to say, I was on the right side of this debate. And I was willing to do something about it. And that my church cares. That's what I want to say. Thank you.